Step number 3 in the redefining process is to convert your should statement into a redefined what would it take question. Now again, so far we've gone through the first 2 steps, which were to create a should statement, create a challenge statement, to scrub it, clean it, use the criteria. We then move into the having a redefined or refined challenge statement. Then we change it to a should statement. Now the next one is creating this what would it take question. And the reason we're moving into this phase or this step is to get you to be thinking differently. What would it take, or this section is to move you to future orientation. If you look into the past and you spend time doing traditional thinking, model thinking, you can easily find yourself placing blame, having regret, looking at emotions that make you feel like you have to ask the question, why? Why did this happen? What went wrong? What needs to be? Now, I'm going to change that directive here, or that direction, by giving you a new tool and a new methodology, a new approach to looking at how to think. In this case, if you do it right, you can use this tool, this redefining, just to create a desired outcome. You can use it to come up with new strategies, new macro tactics, new ways of executing. It doesn't have to be used through the whole process. You can actually use it to identify a certain condition. You could use it in every walk of life. No matter what you do, this tool will be carried with you on your tool belt to change the way you think of the future. Now, if one of the most valuable lessons that I want you to, as we move into how to convert, in this section is to realize that if the question, the what would it take question you develop, the final outcome doesn't get people jazzed up, excited, and you end up asking new questions, the redefining process didn't work for you. You missed something. You have to go back. Meaning, if you said, what would it take to find new customers? People said, well, why are we losing customers? Wait. Then you've already lost it. That you haven't found a positive opposite that works. You didn't work the criteria through. You have to go back to the beginning and look at the steps to say what you might have missed. Because what would it take is just a conversion of taking the sentence that you had and converting it to a what would it take statement. So if I took you from should and what could have happened and what would it take, it takes you from being in the past and moves you to the future. Now, I've had many times people say, but why? And I remember when I was building this tool, that question was asked of me, and I was standing in a corner with pages and pages of notes around me. And I looked around and said, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Because why pushes you to the past. And you'll spend time once again figuring out what went wrong, how you got there, instead of taking the present condition and moving forward. The challenge statement you created is a condition of today. We want to look forward at our forward window instead of our rear view mirror in our car. So let me give you an example, and I hope you'll understand this. I'll give you 2. Let's say that you had a car crash. You've had an accident, and think back, maybe you've had one. I want you to think about the car and the condition it was in. I want you to think about everything wrong with the car. I want you to think of the model of the car, the color of the car. And I want you to think about now taking that exact same car, having it go on a flatbed, and going to an auto mechanic. You're not there. The car is sitting in the auto mechanic's facility. What does he say? He walks up to the car and he says, well, the car has a broken rear view section. Well, the car shouldn't have a rear view section broken, and actually the car should be in perfect working showroom condition. What would it take the car what would it take for me to produce the car in 2 weeks into perfect working showroom condition? That might be one of the questions that he's going through. Let me ask you something. Does it matter where the car crash happened? No. Does it matter why the car crash happened to that mechanic? Does he care why the car crash happened? No. Does he care what weather it was outside? Does he care who were the passengers? Does he care that you were on your cell phone, driving, trying to paint your nails, and having a cup of coffee? Does that matter? No, none of that matters. All that matters is a car in the shop that's not working. Now, he might sit down and try to calculate how to repair it, how to figure it out, and he might take that total, and you will use US dollars, and say it's going to cost $7,000 US to repair the car, and the insurance company comes back and says, I only will give you 5. So his challenge statement might now change because conditions have changed. What would it take to get the car into perfect working showroom condition given the $5,000 that I have? Well, in the beginning, he might have wanted to use original manufactured parts. And now he's going to use parts that are OEM. They're not OEM. These are substitute parts that other manufacturers have made for a lot cheaper cost. They might not be as good. They might even be just as good. But what he's going to do is change his approach to solving the challenge. He feels empowered with the challenge statement. What would it take to get the car into perfect working showroom condition? If he's not empowered, he doesn't move forward with it. So it's a mind shift. You don't need to spend time on the past. And that's so difficult for people to get their minds around. You don't need it. You need to be looking at the current condition. So let me give you an actual example of a guy who runs a farm equipment manufacturing facility. We were working on this project that he had in-house, and one of them was, he said his challenge was that he was getting canceled orders during this peak time. And he said to me, my challenge is I don't have the right staff. If you've been listening to the criteria, he's immediately broken the one of placing blame, or the solution is in his challenge. His challenge is not that he needed the right staff. The challenge was, after further research, he found that he was missing 14% of the order ship dates. Would you rather solve the challenges of we don't have the right staff, which I hear everywhere, challenges of staff, or we miss 14% of our order ship dates? Come to find out that it was 14% of the order ship dates in a certain product area. So we started looking at redefining what would it take to ship, that it started to, as we looked and did some analysis, we found that were orders over $25,000 that were really the kicker, the ones that were the challenge. So we came up with a challenge statement, or a what would it take statement, and this was the one. What would it take to ship all orders totaling $25,000 or more within 4 working days, 4 business days? Well, solutions started to emerge all over the place, and what we came up with was that one of them was he needed a better forecasting computer system put in place, basically an inventory processing system. He also then preloaded going into the season with a higher or different inventory mix because he was able to forecast better. He was able to reach out to customers and find out. The other thing he did was he contracted out during the busy season to be prepared when the order fluctuations went too high. Inventory and manufacturing couldn't meet the needs. Realize right off the bat, we didn't hire any new people. It wasn't a people issue. It was an issue with the question he was asking. I asked him, how long has he been working on this challenge of the right people? Can't hire the right people. He said, for years on end, I've been trying to find the right people. I was facing the wrong challenge. And by using the redefining process, the redefining tool, he was able to identify what his real challenge was. And that's very different. It was not a goal, though. It was not a goal. It was a challenge statement, going all the way back to the beginning of redefining. The real value in redefining is that it will always help you come up with a better solution, a better opportunity, a better mix. It will help focus and clarify you before you walk out to your team and tell them what they have to execute on. You then take that redefined challenge question, what would it take? And you integrate it within your CST, your cyclonic strategic thinking, your strategy, your macro tactics, your tactics, and the execution. Now, it's valuable in numerous ways. It'll give you a uniformed approach. Redefining gives you a uniform approach to facing a challenge. Remember in the beginning I said that, do you have a process, a methodology, a tool to figure out how you think? And everybody says no. Or when they do say yes, they write one out, it doesn't work. They don't follow it. This is something you could follow every day. It does two very valuable things. One, this tool is transferable. You can teach it to other people. The second is it's collaborative and inclusive. It helps to create cohesiveness in the team because you've got a tool that you can all share and work together with. It's really powerful in a multitude of ways. Let me end with an example that's of large scale that I think you can get your mind around, using the tools that you've just heard about, learned about. In the bookstore industry, there's been a migration, the college bookstore industry, there's been a migration to try to find profits within the industry. Now, the college bookstore does on average in the US, I'll use US numbers, about $2 million to $50 million in revenue. And they've been declining profitability, margin compression. Books have been much more challenging to sell to get that margin that they'd like. And they were also losing sales to students sharing books because books were extremely expensive. They were also losing to online sources which were selling books, used books, at much more discounted prices. Their challenge statement was, well, our profits are declining. Without understanding redefining, you would say, what would it take to increase profits? If that was the case, increasing profits would be, we're going to sell our school logo on our material or sell shirts, which have higher margins. And the universities were spending a lot of money trying to sell novelty, trinkets, food, posters, student supplies to increase their profitability because that was the directive. Let's use redefining and step back. First of all, increasing profits, is that really the desired outcome of a bookstore? Now I'm skipping to criteria 6. But the reality is no, a bookstore's original intention, if you were to travel back in time, 50,000 feet up, was the original intention of a bookstore was to help the university students be able to learn. And if we look at this from a higher contextual point of view, from a higher perspective, if the job of the bookstore is to help the professors and the students to deliver content, we could transform the entire bookstore methodology. What if the bookstore didn't make a profit? What if the bookstore's primary objective was to deliver books that the professors could use to increase the overall education? Now, think of the implication of this. No longer are they worrying about profitability, but they go out to the university and they ask professors, what do you need? How can we help you to produce a better environment, not sell a pen? The teachers might say, well, I don't know of new tools we could use, sources we could use. They start to become a resource, which was their original intention. Now, in doing so, they help to improve the quality of education. So a student who used to spend all their time, or a student can get a better outcome from the university. The university now moves from number 36 on the scale of universities in that discipline of, say, biology, moves up to number 7. What happens? Well, you get more students to apply to the university. So let's do some simple math. Let's say you have a student who's going to spend an additional $30,000 per year on tuition. In the US, they go anywhere from $15,000 all the way up to $60,000, $70,000 a year for undergraduate degree. Let's say they moved up to number 7. That might generate $1.5 million or $6 million to the university. It would also include more investment opportunities where people are doing research. They're getting grants. They're getting visibility to other parts of the university. By increasing the bookstore's value to the university instead of profits, it could bring an additional $50 million to the university. Now, what would you rather sell? A pencil? A t-shirt? Or generate $60 million with a profitability as a university that has the facilities to be able to service them? The answer is the question or the solution, I think, is obvious. Let me end by the redefining concept by giving you a short story. When I started this journey of trying to figure out a tool of strategically thinking, because I didn't find one out there, I looked all over. We sat in these rooms, I think 7 or 8 visits, this friend of mine and I talking, and we ended up coming with this methodology, this tool. And I remember the first time flying home and sitting down with my wife. I had 13 wall sheets on the wall, big posters, handwritten notes that I had put together, things that I had developed over time on my own, trying to figure out how this would work. And I said, I've got something. Now, there were no criteria. There were none of these tools, this complexity I've given you, positive, opposite, ultimate end, none of that. And I said to my wife, I've got this tool, let's try it. And I said, what's the biggest challenge you face today? And she threw out a challenge that had to do with our children. And I said to myself, oh no, I don't know if this is going to work, but enterprise thinking, paid to think, is about universal tools and concepts. It could work anywhere. So I said, what's the challenge? And she threw out one that was really one that hit home, hurt my heart when I heard it, about one of our children. And I said, okay, let's take that challenge statement. And I said, well, let's talk about that for a minute. What would be the positive opposite to this? And or a should statement. What should it be like? We didn't have positive opposite. And she said, it should be this. And I said, okay, it's working. I then said, we converted it to a what would it took question. And when we did, the answer started to come. She started to say, I could be more actively involved. I could be engaged. I could do this. I could do that. And through the process, I was asking her how she would solve it with this original challenge statement. She had answers that were all pointing blame to one of our kids. But the minute we found a really good, what would it take statement, the world opened up. I wish I could share that one with you. And the answers that she had were dynamic. And within less than a year, not only did our son and our family change, we ended up with solutions that were far exceeding our expectations. I'm hoping that when you go home, even if you don't do this or go to work, I'm hoping you use this tool, even in the shortest context, and you'll find that you'll get unbelievably new solutions, new opportunities you never saw coming. This is how to think. So enjoy.